So, welcome to today's episode of What the Phygital, the podcast that explores the world of phygital experiences and how they're transforming the way we interact with digital technology. I'm excited to be joined by Sven Stanko, the CMO of Another-1. Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, John. Thank you for having us, Change Guardian community. Super excited to get the conversation going, talk about, where Web3 fashion is going, what the future holds, and kind of like what the future of Phygital is and what we bring to the table. So super excited to get started, and I'm here to be prompted by your command, sir.
All right. So I got a few questions to kick us off with. I figured that I would just start with why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure, perfect. So as you mentioned, my name is Sven Stanko. I'm pretty much the marketing manager at Another-1 for the past year and 1 month now already. Prior to that, I was working for a play-to-earn gaming project that did really well and kind of like at the Pico top during 2021. So the project launched pretty much in November when everything was pumping. So we did really well on that launch. Prior to the play-to-earn gig, I was working for Black Dragon, which was one of the first decentralized community-backed VCs pretty much on the market. So that was also a really interesting and like an experience that I got a lot of knowledge from, just being around, guys that have been in the game since, like early days, 2016, 2017. So, everything that I've been doing for the past year has pretty much been mostly focused on digital marketing in the Web3 space, developing projects, creating new narratives, and pretty much trying to get as many people excited about the possibilities presented by blockchain and Web3 technology, and to kind of like bridge them onto this crazy universe that we're on. And basically now in terms of what I'm doing for Another-1 is trying to like bridge that gap, but more so to pretty much elaborate on the opportunities and values for retail and how basically established brands can be looking at the Web3 space as a huge market opportunity to basically not only capitalize on their products, but also kind of like capitalize on long-term Web3 loyalty programs, if we want to call them that.
Right. So something that made me a little curious. So you talk about marketing is a little bit different, right? For digital marketing and Web3. Could you like elaborate on that and what's the main differences?
For sure. I can even compare it to, I guess, like the experiences I had prior to kind of like moving onto the crypto side professionally to do marketing. So even before that, I was doing marketing for basically like Web2 brands, if you call them that. One of my first marketing gigs was for an American wine reseller that pretty much moved to Shanghai to sell American wine to the Chinese demographic. So that was a really interesting experience as well. And basically, the main thing that I would conclude in terms of like, what is the key difference between, like marketing in Web2 environments and marketing in Web3 environments is that Web2 environments, you can really get so much accomplished simply by building a really big and efficient emailing list. And that's pretty much your go-to and bread and butter, for like moving products, like getting sales, getting orders in, getting all of that stuff out. Whereas opposed to Web3 is like, you don't have anyone's email. All you potentially have is, like users' wallet addresses, which you don't know who the person is behind the account.
Right.
Not a lot of people in the Web3 space, because I guess like, the kind of like the North Star and the main philosophy of the space is to stay decentralized, is to stay autonomous, and to stay also kind of like an anon in that sense. So you're dealing with issues that are basically kind of like convolute into a point where creating a community becomes kind of like the number one thing for any sort of efficient, successful marketing, because again, you're not dealing with individuals. You don't have direct access to them most of the time. Sometimes you do if you pull things off efficiently, or again, you kind of like use your Web3 platform to garner a mailing list to get that direct contact. But usually in the beginnings, you're dealing with pretty much a bunch of anonymous users on chain that need to get excited about whatever your project or whatever your product is. So that would be the key difference for my personal experience. And it's also kind of like, I guess, like a broken record sometimes, like when people talk about it, it's like, oh, community, but then everybody kind of like neglects the fact that in order for internet communities to thrive, they actually need something that I guess like regular daily DeFi users can relate to. And something that we've kind of like seen, I guess also from my personal experience, is that like shitposting can get you a long way. You know what I mean? Like having exquisite tastes in memes and, kind of like being able to stay up to date is something that really resonates with Web3 communities. Partly probably also because, like the demographics that we're dealing with, especially in the NFT space, are younger demographics, kind of like Gen Z to millennial. Past that, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even consider maybe like mentioning anything Web3 related to baby boomers, because they're simply not interested. Like the natural reaction they have is, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme, oh, it's it's multi-level marketing, is this and that. So in our case, definitely like building communities would be number one, and then to evolve and kind of like funnel that from, I guess, like establishing a grassroots community to then being able to, kind of like pick out the best of the crop, like to try to transform some even anon users that you might have on your Discord into community ambassadors or community mods and stuff like that. And then slowly building bit by bit to basically, have a community that is thriving, have a community that is pretty much, maintaining excitement and hype around the project, because we also have to be aware of the fact that, like crypto and Web3 still is pretty much an attention economy where, like if you lose any sort of momentum, it's really hard to get it back because there's so much stuff going out on a daily basis, and the average, I would think, attention span of humans has also very decreased. Especially
we're talking 3 seconds on social media, so I totally get
the Web3 space. So something that like we're also kind of learning and noticing is that like short format always works better, media always works better. Having basically like access also to even the show that we're doing right now, like whether they be AMAs or whether they be podcasts or Twitter Spaces. These are all things that need to be done consistently and kind of like on pretty much a weekly basis to make sure that the excitement stays there. And then one thing that I'm just going to add, sorry for taking this whole monologue, is basically the importance of regular community updates, which I feel is something that is missing with a lot of Web3 projects. Usually like if we look at the DeFi specifically, I think the NFT space does it definitely much better than the DeFi space. But like if we look at the DeFi space, where it's kind of like a lot of projects end up raising money and then, like basically like take out the time, a year or two, to pretty much develop the product that they set out to develop. But then in the process of developing that product, they're not really communicating, on the progress. And that's something that can be also like kind of like key to basically establish that confidence and establish that trustworthiness amongst holders.
So someone who's new to this space, how would you explain DeFi?
Okay, so easiest way without kind of like getting into all of the degen stuff and all of the myths, and because the rabbit hole gets deep, and it's something that, like I always every time when like I get asked by like people who are not in the space that kind of like have an interest to get in, I'm always kind of like setting boundaries in terms of like think really hard if this is something that you really want to like put your time and effort into, because as I said, the rabbit hole gets really, really deep, and it's really easy to get lost in all of the information that kind of like is floating around the space. But like one of the easiest ways, I guess I would explain it to anyone who hasn't had any interaction with DeFi or any even sort of I guess like financial markets, would be to like look at traditional markets of capital. So considering that like if you look at stock markets, pretty much all of the possibilities that you have there, whether it be lending, whether it be bonding, whether it be borrowing, whether it be staking, whether it be any of these like instrument financial tools that you would have at your disposal to pretty much have access to the same type of tools, but on a peer-to-peer decentralized kind of manner. So that's how I would pretty much define it. You know, like the word itself pretty much sums it up very nicely. You know, decentralized finance, meaning that everything is peer-to-peer. But yeah, to kind of like go back to your original question, you know, how would you explain it to someone who doesn't know a single thing about it? It's really tough still, and it's really tricky because, you know, you can let's say, for example, let's take last year's USD collapse and scenario, right? So for example, you know, like, here's someone that is interested in, you know, like basically not like you have a person that doesn't have a lot of like interest in risk. He pretty much, you know, wants to kind of like create stable yield on an asset that's quote unquote stable and wants to get into it.
Yeah.
And then you point him in the direction of DeFi, and then he ends up, you know, like staking his USD on Terra, thinking that, oh, you know, like this is the best. This is the safest and best investment that I could have made, because I'm pretty much, you know, like staking a stable asset to get a yield that's 20x of what I could be getting in a traditional bank within the traditional financial system. And then something like Luna happens, and then you're pretty much, you know, left with a lot of let's say blood on your hands. So. Definitely, when again, kind of like walking people into the whole DeFi space, I think we still have to be really careful and, you know, like point out specific things that are just kind of like key for onboarding new users. You know, like for them to be aware of smart contract risks, for them to be aware of, you know, like the kind of like what we also said, the fact that like it is an attention span economy, and just because something was pumping yesterday doesn't mean it's not going to dump tomorrow. And like the volatility of the whole space is something that's really important to be aware of when kind of like going into these DeFi endeavors. But yeah, back to your original question. Yeah, decentralized finance, peer-to-peer, having access to pretty much all financial tools that you would have in the traditional financial markets, with the convenience of you know, kind of like keeping your own coins and being your own bank in that sense.
Cool. So what the Phygital, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about Phygital products and events and entertainment and what that can entail. So I'm a little curious. So what makes a great Phygital product?
Okay, so this is something that we're still trying to figure out also as a company, because there's obviously pioneers in the Phygital space. Like when we talk about pioneers, we usually refer to Artifact, which was kind of like, I guess, the first company that kind of like bridged from, you know, like a purely AR, VR development agency into a full-blown Web3 company that got acquired by pretty much the biggest retailer in the world, Nike, to basically start delivering these truly Phygital experiences, and to kind of like elaborate on the value of products moving as we as people are kind of like shifting also to basically spend more of our time digitally. Then that reasoning also made sense for products in Artifact's case, where, you know, like we too are kind of like going down this line to basically try to find out, you know, like, well, what the ultimate Phygital product is. But one thing that we're noticing while looking at other competitors too is that basically usually Web3 companies, like even now, are kind of like dividing, rather than fusing the gap between physical and digital, they're kind of dividing it, right? Where basically, like, you know, like even if we would look at the case of NFT merchandising, you know, you have pretty much like a successful NFT project, you have a PFP that, you know, is pretty much your kind of like gateway into the community. And then, yes, you might have some special utilities. You might be able to stake your NFTs. You might be able to do some of these like DeFi things that we've just discussed. But then in terms of physical drops, they would usually, from what we've been seeing and experiencing, they would usually be treated as purely merchandising drops, right? So like if you look at the cases of Bored Ape Yacht Club or Mutinate Yacht Club, if you look at the case of the Remilio babies, if you look at the cases of even what Puma just now did with the Super Puma NFTs, it's always kind of like doing an NFT drop to garner that community, and then basically, like upselling them on merchandising and upselling them on pretty much any sort of physical products that would fall within the niche. But what we're trying to do and what we believe Phygital is, and like is kind of like the way to go for the future, is pretty much to make sure that like from the stepping stone of producing a project, we pretty much have the focus on how is the product going to fit into the digital environment as well as the physical environment, and how will these products work together. So in the case of Another-1, for example, whenever we take on projects, something that I can mention as a direct example is the NTR1 Meta, which is a project that we started last year in partnership with Swappable, which kind of like is the OG Phygital sneaker, if you want to call it that, made in Italy, handmade, pretty much embedded with NFC chip technology to be able to kind of like utilize some of the value presented by the shoes themselves to create a loyalty program for users so they can kind of like get rewards for flexing their shoes in IRL and in the metaverse as well. But then again, in our case specifically, when we were doing the NTR1 Meta project, the idea was, okay, so how do we create a shoe that is pretty much omnipresent, that is pretty much accessible both in the digital and physical realm, whenever you need it to be? And not only that, but then how to capitalize on the fact that it is omnipresent to basically reward the holders in a way that makes sense. Where again, in the case of Another-1 products, the way we're doing that is by this pioneering technology that we're also doing called Flex to Earn, which basically involves us having to put NFC chips inside all of the physical assets that we're producing in order to do two things primarily. One, to be able to authenticate the goods themselves, so it's kind of like have proof of authenticity on chain. And the other one is to pretty much empower and reward users through that NFC technology and this Flex to Earn module that we've created, so that brands can reward the users for flexing their products in real life. Meaning that like if you have an NTR1 Meta shoe and we've partnered up with let's say like a shoe consignment store somewhere in Paris, and they have an allocation of Another-1 tokens that can be pretty much delegated to reward the users with the actual shoes. That means if you're an NTR1 Meta holder and you walk into that consignment store and the clerk behind the counter legit checks your NTR1 Metas using our app, you will be rewarded for doing so, right? So what we're trying to do, pretty much to go back to your initial question, is to kind of like pioneer the way that we're developing these Phygital products in a way that they not only are omnipresent, as I said, like in the metaverse or in real life, but are also there to empower the holders themselves and also the brands who are pretty much creating these projects and doing these products.
So you're trying to create value both digitally but also physically, right? That we benefit from also owning it digitally, but also if I want to flex it, walking around with my friends, I can connect to other people who also have it, and I gain points and part of the. So I guess there are going to be perks and stuff then moving down the line.
Yeah. So we're expecting to pretty much have that big Flex to Earn module fully developed by the summertime. Once that's live, then pretty much all of the existing collections that we have in our portfolio, meaning the NTR1 Meta collection, whose sale and redemption window, by the way, will be open next week to celebrate the Central Metaverse Fashion Week. So it's something we can get into a little bit as well. And then the upcoming projects that we also have under our umbrella, one is pretty much Drip Lab, which is going to be another really exciting Phygital project done in collaboration with one of the biggest graffiti artists in Europe, Zoop24, as well as Almatex, who is the premier supplier of luxury fabrics for pretty much the biggest luxury groups, whether it be Prada, LVMH, and all of that stuff. So we have some really cool jackets lined up for that drop as well, which is going to be really, really exciting. And then somewhere end of the summer, beginning in the fall, we have another project lined up with another Australian kind of like a luxury snowwear company. which
All right.
I can't drop any names yet, but it's going to be really exciting as well. So definitely, we're trying to make sure that this Flex to Earn module supports all of the upcoming drops and collections that we do, so that pretty much brands and users can get the best out of the whole experience.
So what I'm hearing also is that you're sort of tapping into different communities then, I guess, because they might not all work together, right? There might be something very luxurious and something maybe more streetwear, or how do you look at that, these different communities? And
in terms of positioning, ideally we're trying to tap into let's say the luxury / high beast market, where some brands that we already collaborated with, for example, like last year, Casa Day is one of the most prominent, I guess, producers of women's shoe wear, meaning like stilettos, high heels, sandals, stuff like that. We had a nice collab with them last year. So once we did that, we kind of realized that pretty much the best way for positioning ourselves long term would be to onboard existing established Web2 brands, and then kind of like basically become a one-stop shop for them to deliver these digital experiences, because everything else that needs to be produced and conducted on the creative and tech side is something that we can handle for them. It's pretty much our main strategy for now, to onboard existing brands into the Web3 environment, while at the same time collaborating with existing Web3 projects and communities to create outreach, such as yourselves, to be able to kind of like, develop and grow the digital space. Because one thing that's really interesting is that if we look at the digital space in comparison to the whole, let's say, market cap of NFTs, it's still tiny. It's still probably, like under 2%. And the whole opportunity for fashion in Web3 is absolutely huge. And that's something that we also have in the back of our mind, thinking long term, that's pretty much like where we want to be. And once, if last year, we had a Metaverse run and, like projects were switching, from whatever they had, then basically like pivoted to any sort of like Metaverse utilities. We're hoping that, like once that moment comes for Web3 fashion, that we're going to be there to be able to kind of like deliver on all of the values that we intend to deliver.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about Decentraland.
Yeah.
What's happening there? What's going on?
So I don't know if you're familiar. Last year was pretty much the first year of the Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week, which was an initiative by them to basically onboard Web3 fashion and digital fashion brands like us into the Metaverse space. And last year, for the first one, we had the opportunity to pretty much be one of the pioneering companies in the Metaverse Fashion Week in our partnership with Swappable. As Swappable pretty much owns a piece of land in the Decentraland Metaverse, and we were able to use this building that they had there to pretty much create some POAPs for the initial, for the first installation of the Metaverse Fashion Week. And we were just kind of using that to promote the idea of Phygital to pretty much all of the Decentraland Metaverse fashion wear users at the time. This year, Metaverse Fashion Week is coming back for its second installment. This time with also some very big, exciting brands who are going to be a part of it, like DressX and The Fabricant, like some kind of like, let's say, more so digital fashion companies rather than Phygital fashion companies, but big companies who have gotten big funding and big backing by some really prominent VCs and investors. So it's going to be really exciting and interesting to see how this year's Metaverse Fashion Week kind of like ends up evolving. And we're really excited again to be there again in partnership with Swappable for the NTR1 Meta physical redemption and new sales window. And we're pretty much now focused on trying to outreach to as many of these projects and companies who are also being actively involved in the Metaverse Fashion Week to establish long-term synergies. Because if you think about it, it's kind of like the same way in gaming, right? The gaming industry goes and develops in a positive manner by, you know, like I guess like gaming conglomerates coming together for the sake of the space. And we see that in fashion as an equal opportunity as well. Especially, I guess I would perceive it more important in our case as well, is because the fashion industry is sort of kind of like a very tight-knit, close group of people, you know, which is kind of like, I guess, like headlined by these 2-3 huge groups, and then it's pretty much damn near impossible, you know, to kind of like make it in the fashion space, like as an individual designer, which is why we take this opportunity of the Web3 fashion space super seriously, and I'm trying to create as many synergies as possible, because we understand that ultimately that's going to be the only way for us to be able to fight these huge conglomerates and, you know, like million-dollar companies.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? If one person makes it, then the whole group and the whole community makes it. Yeah,
exactly.
So, do you have a preference between like digital, physical, Phygital? Do you think there's like one side is better than the other, or where do you see this going?
I honestly, so the funny word is Phygital. So like Phygital gets a lot of slack. Like, I guess like especially like Web3 users are not too fond of the word. So like they're always trying to like think of, you know, like if there's a better way of calling it, you know, whether they be like
NFT rewards.
Yeah, NFT rewards, or like
it doesn't sound very good at the moment either.
I feel you. So stuff like that. But basically, the way we see it is that Phygital, no matter the word, no matter the, you know, like which term you're coining or using, is the future and is the way to go. Because if we're thinking about, you know, like how we're in kind of this, I guess, late stage capitalism period, you know, like moving towards a new, maybe let's say economic system of shared economies where, you know, like everything will be more so tied into each other, you know, like even now with the CBDCs coming up, which is, you know, kind of like a big threat to, you know, what might happen to the DeFi and stuff like that. We definitely see that the world in general is getting more digitized, and then it is safe to assume that the gap between physical and digital worlds will be blurred even further. So that also means that kind of like our rationale and our way of thinking that like product should not be only digital or physical, but should be omnipresent makes a lot of sense. Because another way to think of it is, for example, if you have an NTR1 meta shoe, which is like one of our sneakers, right? And you have it basically as an NFT, and once you redeem it, you also have it as a physical pair, and you're able to confirm the authenticity of the product on chain, which also makes it super easy and convenient for you to be able to resell this shoe as an NFT on the secondary market, because now you have clean data of, you know, like who the owner was, who the next owner is. Everything's documented on the blockchain ledger, and we're kind of thinking that this whole reasoning makes a lot of sense for what we're trying to do as well. And ultimately, we see not only fashion products, but also, I guess, like any sort of physical products that do have that novelty appeal to slowly be able to transition in this omnipresent fashion, where, you know, they're not only available to you in your physical environment, they are also available to you in your digital environment, whether like in the case you put an Oculus headset on, it's still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So, should we tap into this little this or that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm down for a little fun segment to see what you came up with.
This is a little bit of a take on some trends that are coming up. I think you might need to bring up the slideshow yourself, perhaps. But I will talk you through it. Because I don't think I can share screen, unfortunately.
Okay. I'm on it. So we got this or that. What the Phygital episode 1.
We move on to the first slide.
All right,
We got our
cool.
classic Crocs, and we got our Boston Birkenstocks. You gotta pick one, and I gotta know why.
Okay. God knows I love both of these. Like Crocs are just like I don't know, man. Like Crocs are engraved in my childhood in terms of like and being like the first what the hell are you wearing type of shoe that I ever came across. But Birkenstocks, man, the full toe Birkenstocks is just, especially like this one that he also picked out in the picture, this kind of like beige suede. They're timeless, man. They're also like they're so comfortable. They're so nice. I'm gonna have to go with the Boston Birkenstocks for this.
Oh, I feel like that's completely acceptable. I feel like if I was going anywhere public, I'd probably wear them as well if I wanted to feel a little comfy.
100%.
Okay, we move on to the second one. You know, there's a lot of trends in this sort of hiking, running shoes, extra utilities. For some reason, we need an ultra marathon running shoe from Salomon to pop out. So we got Salomon or Hoka. Which one are you rolling with here?
This is an easy pick. I really dislike the Hokas completely.
Oh, really?
Awful silhouette. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of pretty much any of their products. I would never put a pair on. And the Salomon is just a nice, clean design. Even again, this one that you picked out, the kind of like creamy white ones. Yeah. Look beautiful. It's also kind of like, I guess, it's funny that Salomon is associated, you know, with kind of like the tech space. It's kind of like being, the tech pros footwear of choice. So yeah, easy pick from the Salomon.
Because you can just put them on and go hiking on the weekend straight from the office.
Leave the office and go straight to conquer the next peak.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Controversial. We got our
the trendies.
So we got our Astro boots, the big red boots, and we got the Red Wing Mario boots from. I think they were releasing this as part of the film promotion for the upcoming film, or if they're not releasing it, who knows? You got to pick one.
I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Mischief released the Wing Mario boots. As soon as the movie's out, so yeah, I wouldn't be terribly surprised at that. Okay, this is a difficult one because I'm a huge Super Mario fan, and like my heart is telling me that I should go with the Wing Mario boots. I've never really gotten into Astro Boy, so I've I wasn't that in tune with whatever the values of that whole anime were, but simply because I don't know, I have a feeling like everything Mischief does is just like always like a pure
trend,
pure slam dunk. Yeah, I would have to go with the Mischief boots in this sense, simply because the marketing that we've seen in the past month done for these was absolutely spectacular.
I agree. I think I don't think I haven't seen any of the fashion influencers and big fashion people. Everybody has been wearing them. I think my favorite is, I want to say he's Slovenian or Croatian, Gramps.
Okay.
He's, I think he's based in Germany. It's this grandpa who was rocking with Supreme streetwear. His grandson was dressing him.
I think I saw that, and then they had him in the red boots too.
I think it's the guy who like absolutely nailed the outfit. I think he's the... He's the one that I've seen done it the best, which is also hilarious.
The person I've seen done it the worst might have been Lil Wayne. I saw Lil Wayne's outfit from I think like it was a recent event somewhere where he was rocking the
NBA game.
Boys. It was not good.
Yeah, I think Travis Scott also didn't pull up a questionable outfit.
Questionable Astro Boy outfit. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to a classic.
Oh boy, this is a tough one.
We got Reeboks and we got Converse.
This is a tough one. Just based on the image, simply because I guess like here you put the high top.
Retro. Yeah.
I would have to go with the Reebok Club C85s because it's kind of like a timeless silhouette. Like I don't know, man. You can put on a pair of these and pretty much match any outfit pretty effortlessly and still look clean. And I was never personally a fan of the high top Chucks.
Oh, I see.
So I did rock I guess, the low tops for a period in my high school. But yeah, I never, I don't know. I'm not too big on, I would guess, very, how would I describe them? I guess like textile produced shoes, you know what I mean? That just don't have a lot of leather, don't have a lot of bulk around them. Yeah. Not a big fan of those, you know, like even, you know, if I were to decide between like Converse or Vans would be an easier pick in that sense. Yeah. So yeah, definitely got to go with the Reebok Club C85s in this one.
All right. I think that's a fair choice. I think also, like, you know, looking at styles and stuff and seeing how the silhouette is a little bit perhaps wider at the length of trousers and jeans nowadays. So
for sure,
it makes sense.
For sure.
All right. We got our last little slide. You know, we gotta bring up the running shoes, Asics or Balenciaga. I know Balenciaga is coming out with a new running shoe now as well, but I figure we go a little bit backwards for the runner trainers.
Okay, I have personal opinions on Balenciaga that I'm not like gonna get into. So, but I do have to admit that that pretty much the whole design, the approach that they took with, you know, kind of like creating a modern version of a dad shoe was really interesting, and some of the runners that I've seen people kind of have on feet too, especially like if the outfit's good, have been looking impressive. But I think the whole idea of remixing dad shoes to make something like more street or more hype or more edgy just kind of beats the purpose, you know what I mean? Because a dad shoe is a dad shoe, and if you're rocking a dad shoe, like that's a vibe, you know what I mean? So again, in this case, I would have to go with the OGs, with the Joe 1130s, and I would also mention that I think New Balance is also someone who's pretty much kind of like pioneering, the whole dad shoe revamps. And I'm really happy with everything that they've been doing. So I don't know. It just kind of like reminds me of also the dad shoe. I don't know if you remember like what the Nike Air Monarchs used to look like.
This is why I wanted to bring those up, because I know like 1 or 2 years ago I was rocking them, you know, doing that Hawaiian shirt with the dad short length. You know, I was feeling it. It felt fresh.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm telling you, like Balenciaga, again, whoever the creative team was behind like the revamp, I respect it. You know what I mean? Like there is sort of like really interesting things that they've been doing and experimenting with. But again, you know, if you're gonna rock a dad shoe, man. You know, like go do
it properly.
Or, keep it snazzy.
100%. No, I think I wanted to bring in New Balance, but I figured we'd keep it short. I think what they're doing is it's amazing that they're able to come around, and also
100%. Like huge comeback, huge, and even on like other fronts too. Like if you asked me 3 or 4 years ago, you know, like how would I feel about New Balance making basketball shoes? I would be like, no way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like even like specialized footwear that they're doing now, specifically on like specifically in the case of basketball and stuff like that. They're really breaking barriers. Like even the designs of some of like I generally feel basketball shoes are not very eye appealing, you know what I mean?
I'm not a big fan.
If they're not OG Jordans, then you probably shouldn't be wearing them outside of the basketball court. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But some of the stuff New Balance has been doing, even on that front, has been amazing and really impressive. So kudos to them. And as you said, the whole kind of like revamping of the casual sneaker that they're doing right now with collabs. I don't know if you saw the Action Bronson ones that they did the other day. They look amazing. Like the colorway on that is great. The shoe looks great. Like they're doing really good jobs, like picking who they want to collab with in terms of, you know, like whether it be some kind of like celebrity collabs or even like purely endorsementships for athletes. I think they're doing a really great job. And as you said, the turnaround that they've kind of like did in the past couple of years has been super impressive.
So I guess my follow-up question to that is, are we going to see something like that within Phygital sneakers? you think we're going to be able to see this sort of old school OG sneakers coming in, or are we going to be seeing sneakers that are pushing the future?
I think ideally like there's always needs to be like kind of like a balance of both. And a project that's really interesting that I've been kind of like following in the last couple of months is I don't know if you saw the project by Sean Witherspoon called Mintage. And Mintage has a really interesting idea, which is pretty much, just kind of like bridging the gap of, okay, yeah, they're utilizing Web3 technology and NFTs to pretty much, like give token-gated access to their users for something that's usually really sought out and not readily available in terms of, like quality vintage clothes. And I was super impressed by that whole idea. I thought it was, like kind of like the right direction of kind of like moving things going into the future. So to go back to your question, I think there needs to be a balance of both, because on one side, for example, you have artifact, and on another side you have mintage. Mintage is, trying to, I guess, breathe in new life into old vintage clothing. And that has a lot of charm and appeal too, because generally, like people, no matter what, really do mess with vintage clothes. On the other side, you have artifact, who is kind of like really pushing the boundaries, like really like stepping into this whole like AR, augmented reality type of fashion, where like you're basically able to see products that kind of like go past the imagination of what would be possible, or what
like possible. Physical and boundaries, like
100%. And I think going forward, like ideally we would find a balance of both, where like, for example, like we would have these classic designs. I always like when people ask me, like, what's your favorite shoe? I always say like the best silhouette that I think has ever been made for sneakers has been the Air Force 1, right? I don't think the Air Force 1 sneaker is ever going to go out of style. Like,
no.
In 30, 50, 60, 100 years, like that silhouette is going to be it. You know what I mean? So I think the way of going forward would even be something that, again, like if we can turn to artifact and what they've been doing is kind of like striking a balance between both. I like how they've transitioned also from like a purely conceptual studio now into more so like a studio who's being able to like push these physical products out in partnership with Nike and just kind of like prototype a lot of these things. I think going forward in the future, we ideally will have like classic designs that kind of like transcend timelines, but have the ability to also be able to be bridged into the digital space and be weared in the metaverse, and then have these also like access to all of these other utilities, like whether it be the flex to earn tokens in our sense and stuff like that. So definitely, I think, in kind of like a utopian future, you would still have your Nike Air Force 1s, but then you would also be able to utilize them and bridge them in a digital environment and then get the best out of both worlds in that sense.
That's awesome. So I got 4 quick questions to wrap this podcast up.
Sure. Go
ahead. And we're going to try to keep it short and quick. They're going to be sneaker focused.
Okay.
So what are the best pair you ever owned?
Oof. I don't know about best pair, because there's a lot of pairs.
Favorites,
that are great. But I would think like maybe favorite pair was the first Air Jordan 3 Black Cement that I got while I was still in high school. So I think that's the one that still sticks with me the most. I still like have them. They're super beaten up, but like I still like you have
that attachment to them, right?
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite one. But then, like in terms of, sorry, just to prolong it for a bit, because like there's a lot of shoes. In terms of what I've been rocking with most recently, like the classic Lanvin SDBBs. So like the patent leather on the front with the suede on the sides. super easy, super nice. Like it can be like very versatile. You can wear it for like a casual outfit or like a business smart outfit or whatever. Super nice pair. But yeah, favorite pair ever, definitely Jordan 3's Black Cement. Easy.
So which sneakers did you wish you owned?
Oof. Which sneakers did I wish I owned? Probably like an OG, like an actual OG Jordan 1 pair from like 85. That would be
that's fair.
Be like the grail for sure.
Yeah. Would you wear them though?
Probably not. To be honest, probably not. I'd probably just have him like a glass box displayed in my apartment or something, so people can be like, "Oh, here's this," like I own this.
And then because we're talking about sneakers, how much are you willing to pay for a pair? What's your?
Honestly, it depends on how I'm doing personally, financially, just whether we're getting free airdrops or not. But in I guess like modest terms, I wouldn't probably go over $300 for a pair of shoes. I think
that's fair.
Yeah, that would be kind of like the top, because especially I have a problem with luxury sneakers. I love them. But they take a really long time to break in, and they're really not fun.
I see.
Is it like, well, you can buy a pair of any Nike shoe or any Adidas shoe or New Balance shoe, whatever, and just slip them on, and that's it. You know what I mean? You're comfortable, you're good to go, you can hit the road. Or in the case of, I guess, like luxury designer sneakers, whether it be Prada, whether it be Louis V or Lanvin or whatever, you really do have to break them in, because like they are, I guess, like manufactured in a different way, and it takes a little bit of easing into, like you kind of like need to walk around in a couple months and then for them to actually start feeling like they're your shoe. So that's also something that kind of like drives me from not being, I guess, like very willing to spend, like more than $300 or $400 for a pair of shoes, because A, it's gonna be twice the money that I'm willing to pay for, and then B, I'm gonna have to wait 2 months until that shoe fits me. You know what I mean? Like I actually feel comfortable in it. So yeah, the whole utility behind it is just something that prevents me from spending that extra cash, even if I want it. You know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, you want a sneaker that's comfortable and you can do stuff in.
Yeah, that's the point of it, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you buy a pair of dress shoes.
Exactly. Yeah, and then get blisters after a night out. You know what I mean?
That's very true. My last question is actually, how would you go about getting the latest shoe if you were to get one?
Okay.
Are you the one that camps outside a sneaker store? Or,
oh no, never. All right. In terms of getting the latest shoe, I probably wouldn't go get it, as you said. So I probably wouldn't go jumping through the hoops of like camping outside, or like going through the troubles of trying to beat bots to a drop or stuff like that. Like I honestly wouldn't even bother. But hopefully, what we're trying to do as a company too is to make that whole process of acquiring some sort of like sought out after and hype sneakers to be basically able to deliver them to the people that want them the most. And we do that by like providing token gated access to specific hype goods and hype brands. So if you were to ask me how I would do that, considering what we've been doing, I would probably do that, right? So create some sort of like token gated access membership for sneakers, so that the people that actually want to have them, rather than like resellers or bots, actually end up getting them.
That sounds great. I mean, there's nothing worse when signing up for a raffle and you don't get it, or you sit in line and you want to get the pair, but you also know that the people in front of you are just going to resell them for twice the price. And I understand people are going to make their money somehow, but if we're talking about serving the communities.
The sneaker market is very similar to the NFT market in that sense. You know what I mean? It's just purely speculative, buying into the hype, and then like if I can make 2 or 3x after that, that's it. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
So
awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today, and I hope our listeners got some fun, informative news and information out from you, and excited to follow Another-1 and your journey and the new drops coming out this year.
100%. John, thank you for having us. Thank you to once again to the Chain Guardians community for also tuning in. Again, you know, if you want to learn more about what we do and what we're trying to do to kind of like pioneer in the Web3 fashion space, make sure to check us out at another1.io. That's our corporate website where you can pretty much get the gist of everything that we're doing. You can also check out the Launchpad platform on our website as well, so you can kind of like get in tune with all of the projects and drops that we've been lining up and doing. Yeah, keep an eye out for, I guess, like next week for the Central and Metaverse Fashion Week, because we are going to be opening up the redemption for the NTR1 metas for all existing holders, and another round of sales for potentially any new holders that might want to get the OG Phygital pair themselves. Mm-hmm. So for anyone in the Chain Guardians community that might want to, I guess, own their first Phygital piece of footwear, definitely check that out as well. And again, thank you so much, John, for having us. And yeah, we're looking forward to more of these and coming back.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk soon. Have a great one.
All right. Thank you, sir.